Hello, everyone. I hope that you can hear me. It's the full Huntress moon, and I'm so excited and nervous to be with you here tonight. So, as people are logging on, I'm just going to let Heidi know I'm here. And I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to be joining me tonight. Hi, Giovanna. So happy to see you. As you log on, if you could say hello, I'd really love to hear from you, because if we're not Facebook friends, then I won't see who you are. So I'd love to know who's joining us tonight. If you could say hello, share which city you're joining us from, which country you're joining us from. I'm here in Toronto, and I'm really happy to be sharing the full moon that's closest to Samhain, which is commonly known as Halloween. And it's also a hunter's moon, or as we like to call it here at Yoga Goddess, a huntress moon. So I'm so excited to have you all joining with me tonight. I see Elizabeth's here from the UK, Giovanna from Toronto, Heidi from Toronto. Aditi, I'd love to know where you're joining us from. As you hop on, please say hello and let us know where you're joining from. And for those of you who are new around here, I just want to welcome you to our support circle. We've had so many new women join us in the last 24 hours. And so I'll just take a few moments to introduce myself. I'm Zara Haji, your goddess guide for everything fertility and menstrual moon related at Yoga Goddess. And Moon Goddess is my baby. And it's a program I designed that has helped hundreds of women trying to conceive all over the world through a combination of fertility yoga, meditation, and connecting your menstrual cycle to the moon. And hence why we're gathering tonight under the full moon, because there's so much feminine power for us here tonight, especially under the Huntress moon as we transition. Samhain is the transition from the enchantress energy towards the crone energies. So we're in a transition phase, and it's the darkest night of the year. Sorry, not the darkest night of the year, but it's a night of the year where the veils between the two worlds are thinnest on Samhain. So October 31st, November 1st is a very special time. And so this full moon, which is closest to that time, helps us to tap into this powerful huntress, enchantress, seductress energy. And for those of you, again, who are meeting me for the first time, I'm Zara Haji of Yoga Goddess, and I'm a psychotherapist, a fertility coach, and the founder of the very first online fertility yoga program, Moon Goddess. So a lot of you know that, and I'm just checking to see who's saying hello. Aditi, welcome from Chicago. Dina from Los Angeles, welcome. Emily, it's so nice to see you again, welcome. Heather from Boston, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to you forever, Heather, welcome. And Emily's from Carlisle, Pennsylvania, wonderful, welcome. Shelly, who's a family friend from Toronto, welcome, it's so nice to see you. Shatia from Washington, D.C., welcome. And Mandy says hi, I'm not sure where she is. And Ashley Jane says hello, not sure where she is. So if you'd like to say hello and let me know where you're joining from, I'd love to hear. All right, so a lot of you know that last month's live cast was canceled at the very last minute. And sorry, I'm a little bit stuffed, taking a few sniffs. And I want to let you know why. This is very vulnerable for me to share. And I never thought I would be publicly telling a story like this. So deep breath. But I just went through an IVF that didn't work. And when I got the news that none of my embryos survived, I was in complete shock. Because up until fertilization, everything was going really well. And now, for those of you who don't know me very well, I'm a fertility coach, and I've helped so many women in their 40s conceive with far worse prognoses than mine. So I fully expected that I could get pregnant with IVF in my 40s because I've helped so many other women. In fact, I was working with a woman as I was going through my own IVF who is now pregnant. Congratulations, Kemla, if you join us tonight. So I fully expected that I could do it too. And normally I keep my personal life really close to my heart, but this time I really wanted to let you in on what's been happening for me, because I feel like there's so much important learnings that I have been gathering over the last few weeks, and that I really want to share with you, my community, who has walked with me for almost 10 years now. Yoga Goddess was born in 2008 officially, and we went online in 2012, 2013. So it's been about 5 years online and 10 years altogether. So it means a lot to me to have you all in my community, and for being given the opportunity to share in your fertility journey, so many of you, that I wanted to let you in on what's been happening for me. So back in December, I separated from my partner of 5 years, and it was a really scary decision to choose to be single again, especially as I approached my 42nd birthday. But I did it, and I felt honestly like I could breathe again. By then, we had been trying to conceive for about 3 years. So I realized that getting pregnant would take on a new meaning. But before I could think about that, I took several months just to feel happy about having my life back in my own hands. And then in April, I actually got a call from 2 different fertility clinics where I live. And in Ontario, which is a province of Canada, you can be given a government-funded IVF cycle before the age of 43. And literally, just a few days before they called me, the thought had actually crossed my mind. I wonder if I should find out where I am on the list for a funded IVF. And then literally, I got called within 48 hours. And then weirdly enough, 2 days later, I got a call from another fertility clinic. So now I had, because my doctor had opened her own clinic, the one I was with at the original clinic, then the original clinic called me. So now I had 2 different doctors offering me a free IVF. So I took my time to decide which doctor I would go with, and whether I was ready to move forward as a single mom. We even went back to couples counseling. But by June, I knew it was a lost cause. And that's when I decided to go for IVF on my own. So you're probably wondering why I'm telling you this and not breaking down into tears. And it's because something really miraculous happened, and I'm going to get to that part of the story, but I just wanted to explain that, I'm not watching the comments, so I'm sure a lot of you are saying some beautiful things, and I really appreciate everyone's support that's here with me tonight as I reveal this very personal information. But you can be sure that I was devastated when I got the news. because when my IVF started in the summer, everything looked stellar. My FSH was half of what it was in December. So all the way down to 4.6, which is like unheard of at my age. I had 18 eggs to start with, also very unusual for my age. And 6 of those eggs were retrieved. My neighbor came every morning at 8 a.m. To give me all the injections, because I can't even look at needles being given on TV, so forget about giving myself injections. And the best part was I wasn't paying for the IVF. In fact, 2 different clinics were vying to give me a government-funded cycle, and I actually got to choose the doctor I liked best, because my doctor, although I liked her, had a lot of nervous energy, and because I was doing the IVF on my own, it was really important to me to be with a doctor that I felt that could give me a sense of groundedness and calm, which was really important to me. And I went with my gut on that choice, and that doctor actually gave me free drugs, which is unheard of. In Canada, you still have to pay for your IVF stims, the stimulation drugs. And because I don't have insurance, I was planning to pay out of pocket. But because this pharmaceutical company had given him a new protocol to try out from Europe, it's not used here yet in North America, I got a lot of the drugs for free. So of course, it felt like the universe was smiling down on me, because everything was unfolding so perfectly. I even got like down to the exact donor that I wanted. He was part Mexican, and the Spanish language is really dear and near to my heart. I speak Spanish fluently. I've lived in Mexico and Spain. So that was really important to me, because I don't speak, unfortunately, my own mother tongue. And with this particular donor, he only had 5 other donor kids. And I got the last sample he would ever donate. And that was really important to me. The retrieval went so smoothly that I didn't even bleed afterwards. My worst symptom was throwing up from the drugs. And after the retrieval, I got the news that 3 eggs fertilized, which was exactly the number of embryos I was hoping for. But by day 3, 1 stopped developing. By day 5, it was 2. And then by day 7, the last one still hadn't made it to blastocyst. So that's when it would be able to turn into an embryo most easily. So, as the nurse said, they discarded it. And you can imagine what it was like to hear those words. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm not in tears as I'm telling you this, which I'm sure is strange. And I'll tell you why, because it's truly unbelievable that within 72 hours from the moment that I found out that my embryo had died, literally my whole life changed. So I'll take you back to the moment that I got the call. And if you've ever been through this, you know that these calls are the most gut-wrenching calls to be waiting for all day. I really understood at that time that I went through this, how difficult it is to go. That's the hardest part of IVF, at least it was for me, to wait for the everyday fertilization reports, because everything else up until that point was in my hands and it was going amazing. But as soon as those eggs were out of me and in the embryologist's hands and at the clinic, I didn't have any direct influence anymore. And that's when things got difficult. So I really understand the value of having support, and I really understood the value, and I understand now how much value my support is to my clients, because it really is a hard thing to go through on your own. So back to the call. I'm in the car, and it's around the time where they call usually, so between 12 and 2 p.m. And I was in the car at that moment reading an email, and that's when the phone rang. But the email that I was looking at was about a seminar I wanted to attend, but the dates fell right in the middle of my IVF cycle. So I thought I couldn't even go if I wanted to. But when I got that call where the nurse actually said to me, your embryo stopped developing and we discarded it, it literally brought my whole world crashing down all around me. I felt so utterly lost. I didn't even know how to look forward in my life. Because I had planned, the next several years around this outcome. So in that moment, I did the only thing I could think of, which was to call my best friend. And I told him what happened. And of course, he listened and he empathized. And he's literally the most amazing person I know on this planet, and especially the most amazing man. But then he said something I never, ever, ever thought that he would say. He told me that I needed to go to Asheville to the seminar that I was reading the email about when the call came from the fertility clinic. Now, you have to understand how big this is. Just give me a second. I'm just moving my screen a bit. Because my best friend literally never, ever tells me what to do. On principle, he just won't give advice. But something was different about this time. He said his whole body was vibrating when I told him that I was reading this email about the workshop when the call came from the fertility clinic, and that I needed to go and get some answers. Now, you have to understand, I was in so much shock that I could barely even get myself out of the car. And here he was telling me to get on a plane to go to Asheville, North Carolina, which truthfully, I don't even know. I didn't know anything about, and I had no idea what to expect. And I honestly was in so much shock that I couldn't even think or feel. But I also couldn't ignore what he was saying, because as I said, he's never, ever, ever given me advice or told me what to do. And I trust this man with my life. So I said to him, Vivek, if you're telling me that I have to go to Asheville, then I have to listen to you, because you've literally never told me what to do. And he said, no, I haven't. So I dragged myself out of the car. I canceled last month's full moon live cast, as you know, literally like, I think a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours before. And I spent the next 3 hours booking a flight. I got an Airbnb and my ticket to the seminar to see my favorite spiritual teacher, who you might have heard of before, called Abraham Hicks. And then I wept. I called a few of my closest friends for support, and I questioned why the universe had made this IVF so easy. The free drugs, the funded cycle that even included ICSI, which alone can cost $3,000 to $5,000. I got the perfect donor. my beautiful neighbor who gave me the shots every day, every morning, only to have it crash and burn in the end. I really couldn't make sense of any of it. And what I didn't know then was the answer was brewing. And in a short 72 hours, I would understand why this had happened. So just to give you some context, I got the call on Wednesday, which was the day of the live cast. And on Friday, which is 48 hours later, I was on a plane to Asheville to see Abraham Hicks. And on Saturday morning, 72 hours later, I got a front row seat at the seminar. I raised my hand and I was called up to the stage to ask my question. So, in front of about 1,000 people, I told them my biggest dream has always been to become a mother. And when I decided to have a child on my own, my IVF failed. Even though I'm a fertility coach and I've helped hundreds of women with way worse prognoses than me to conceive, and I didn't understand what had happened. I'm just going to take some water. So that's when Abraham asked me a very poignant question. And if you know who Abraham Hicks is, you'll understand why I use the term they. They asked me, do you really want to be a single mother? And then they said, because your inner being knows that you don't. And honestly, in that moment, everything clicked. I realized that I had literally prayed every single day over the meds, which I always suggest to all my clients to do. I prayed over those medications every day to be united with the man who would raise this child with me. So no, I never wanted to be a single parent, but I also didn't want to wait anymore. I spent over half a decade with a man who, deep down inside, I probably knew wasn't right for me or my future child. So at 41, I made a really, really tough decision to leave that relationship and go after my dreams. I got off that stage and I felt, honestly, so much relief, because I walked off that stage knowing that the universe knows what I want. It seems even better than I do. And now it's up to me to allow myself to receive all of it, not just the baby part. And now this is when the story gets really, really good. So after the seminar, after which I met a lot of wonderful people, and so many beautiful women came up to me and said thank you because they had similar questions. And I asked that painful failed IVF question. And I met a couple of wonderful people who gave me a ride downtown Asheville, because, you know, I just got there like late Friday night and then Saturday whisked over to the seminar. So I wanted to see downtown Asheville. And it was actually Gay Pride that weekend. So there's all these people everywhere, and I'm trying to avoid the crowds. I'm skirting the edge of the festival, but then I get drawn in by a vendor. And I've been wanting to buy, I've been thinking about CBD oil for a long time. It's really good for muscle aches and pains, especially menstrual stuff. So I see this vendor, I buy some CBD oil, I try it, it's all good. And then I'm walking toward the intersection where there's a red light. So I want to see the rest of the downtown. And from the other direction, this man arrives at the intersection at literally the exact moment that I arrive. And in the South, it's wonderful. Everybody says hello. So our eyes meet. I say hi. The light turns green. And he says, hi, what brings you to Asheville? And we walk. And I tell him I'm in town for a seminar on the law of attraction. And that really gets his attention. So much so that he literally doesn't want to leave my side. So he is only in Asheville for the day. He used to live here in town. So he asked me if I want to see the place a little bit. So I say yes, and we go to this really cool used bookstore that has a coffee shop. And we sit down. And he's not into small talk. So he asks these very deep questions. And the very first question he asks me is, what are you focused on in your life right now? And I can't help but smile. So I tell him the truth, that I've been very focused on having a baby, and that I just went through an IVF cycle on my own that didn't work. And he says to me, sorry, it's really funny. He says, I actually didn't finish asking you my question. My question was, what are you focused on in your life right now that I can help you with? So we burst out in laughter, as you can imagine. And it was great. It took what could have been a really heavy topic and just turned it into a really funny moment. And after coffee, we kept talking. And then after coffee, he asked me if I wanted to come with him on an errand. And the errand that he had come to Asheville for, he drove 3.5 hours from Atlanta so that he could buy honey. So apparently you get really good honey in Asheville. I don't know. And he actually he buys honey from a local farmer that puts it in a shed. You have a combination lock. So you go to this, remote place. It's, I suppose, on his property that has a sign. No drive-ups and minimum $50 order. You enter your combination lock, you open the shed, you put your money in a tin can, and you take your honey. And this man purchased 8 gallons of honey. So, 8 4-liter bottles of honey. So after spending 7 glorious hours together from the moment that we met in that intersection, we went for coffee, we went to get honey, we went for dinner. It was just an unbelievably amazing day. It was time to go home. It was about 10 o'clock at night. He still had a 3.5-hour drive in front of him. So we stood outside the Airbnb that I was staying at, and we hugged. And as we were holding each other, I could just feel this warmth between our two hearts. And it was just a beautiful moment. And it was so sweet. Before he let me go, he kissed me on my arm. And for a moment, I realized I didn't want him to go. And we stood there and looked at each other, holding hands. And then I let go and turned around and went inside, went to bed. And there was, day 2 still ahead of me at the seminar. So he went and drove home. And ever since that night, that day, I should say, where we met on the streets of downtown Asheville, it's been 4 weeks now, or so, I think, because it was 4 weeks ago, the full moon. This beautiful man and I have been talking and texting every day, and it feels unbelievable, crazy, that it took a failed IVF for me to go to Asheville and meet this man. When I think about all the things that had to happen in my life and his in order for us to wind up at that intersection, at that very moment, it just blows my mind. And it's amazing. There continues to be this immense force that is brewing in this space between our two beings. And it's amazing. We share a shared language. I've never heard a man who can talk the way he does and emote the way he does, except for my best friend. But he's just my best friend, married and with a daughter of his own. That this man and I, it feels like we are on a magic carpet ride orchestrated by the universe. And it feels like destiny. It feels like soulmates, like a love that only the goddess knows what the final destination is. It just amazes me because I could never, ever, ever in a million years have asked or thought up or imagined being brought together with such a human being that feels like such a perfect match on so many different levels. Now, of course, I don't know what the final destination is, but it feels so enchanting. It feels like a miracle, like magic. And it makes me think of a question that he asked me, which is, did you bewitch me? And his question got me thinking about my ability to enchant and seduce. And not only that, but to attract and receive what I most deeply desire. So when I saw that the October full moon was named the Hunter's moon, my mind immediately flipped to the Huntress. And I began to think about, what can I learn from the archetype of the Huntress? The Huntress is a woman who knows what she wants and goes after it skillfully and artfully, not in a panicked or anxious rush, but with clear focus. So this is the question I've been asking as I found myself unexpectedly in the midst of this incredible new love. I'd like to ask for you to ask yourself this too. How would it feel in my body and in my life to wield such immense feminine power so I could intentionally enchant and seduce life, and then be open to receive what I desire? So we're not talking about a destructive power, but one that we use, or that I use, that you use as a generative force to create more and more and more of what I want, and more and more and more of what you want. Because of course I want that for you too, which is why I'm sharing all of this with you tonight. under the full Huntress moon, because I want us to tease apart from my journey this idea of the Huntress and that enchantress bewitching energy, so we can all know how to enchant and seduce and receive from life all that we want. All right, so let's do it. Let's start with the most important energetic change that every woman needs to make to wield her feminine power. And the clue is in the name Huntress. So if I'm on the hunt, I'm not just using my eyes. I have to be tuned into a greater knowing, a heightened sense of awareness that is giving me a pulse, a bead on what's happening around me. You have to be in sync with that heightened awareness in order to be good at hunting. But if you're in the mode of trying and forcing and working hard to figure it out, you can't tap into and receive that instinctual knowing. You're blocking it. And that flow of heightened awareness and knowing is both the key to the hunt, and it's the key to being in that receiving, receptive mode, where you get the signs and the signals, you receive the signs and the signals that are guiding you along the path to what you want. So leading up to my IVF, I had all these instinctual knowings of what was right for me. And by staying in touch with my inner knowings, they actually came easily. I didn't stand firm in it has to be this way or that way. There was no fight. Instead, there was flow. I was willing to pay for the drugs, but they were offered to me for free. I was willing to go to the clinic for shots, but my neighbor came to help me out. I wanted a donor with very few donor children, ideally with a Hispanic background, and I found him within 3 hours of looking. I wanted what I wanted, and I allowed it to come to me. So the most important change, energetic change that I made, was I released control and I surrendered. That doesn't mean I lost touch with what I wanted. It's that I allowed my instincts and my guidance to show me the way towards everything I was asking for, and I didn't get in my own way with doubts and negative thoughts, which leads me to the next step that I want to share with you. And that's 3 mindset shifts you can start using right away to develop your feminine instincts and surrender to your Huntress guidance. So mindset shift number 1, you need to shift out of trying and forcing and working hard to figure it out, because you simply can't receive any flow of intuition or instinct or knowing from the place of trying hard. You're blocking it, cutting yourself off from the flow. So that's mindset shift number 1. Mindset shift number 2 is shifting away from a focus of what's going wrong or what's missing into a focus on everything that's going right. So all these things went right. My FSH was the lowest it's ever been. I had 18 eggs before the stimulation even started. 6 of them got retrieved. 3 eggs fertilized. So there were so many things that went right, down to the retrieval, and I didn't even bleed or have any recovery time. But then one big thing went wrong, and it overshadowed everything that went right. And of course, it's the most natural and human reaction. But it's also true that in the question, why is this happening to me? And that feeling of being forsaken and betrayed, I almost cut myself off from any greater instinct or knowing, and certainly from the belief that things are always working out for me. Certainly didn't feel like that at that moment. So access to my guidance system was almost completely out of my reach. Not entirely, but almost. And then shift number 3 is accepting that you're not in control and that there is a bigger power at play, a larger force at work, especially when things look grim. And then, of course, the hardest part, surrendering to that power no matter what. Because there's always signs and signals showing up on your path. The trick is being open enough to see them. I was in the car reading that email before the clinic called and thinking how I wished I could go to see Abraham in Asheville. And in the moment the call came, I got that heartbreaking news that my embryo died. I felt almost entirely abandoned by spirit. But you know, it's amazing and a little bit annoying, but I could still feel this glimmer of hope. And it made me mad, because I thought, how could I still feel hope in the face of such awful news? My best friend, Vivek, calls it unopposed joy, like an unbreakable part of our spirit that always knows things are working out no matter how bad things look. So if it's always there, how do you harness it? So, you try to stay open to the guidance, especially when negativity threatens to overshadow all the good. And there was a lot of good that happened, and clearly a lot of good that was still to come. But that's not what I could see in that moment. The good news is I listened to my best friend, even when all I wanted to do was give in to the despair and hopelessness. He helped me to follow the guidance that I was being shown, but that I couldn't follow on my own. And thankfully, I was open enough to have my best friend tune into my guidance and literally tell me what to do when I couldn't, get that guidance and listen to it on my own. So finally, we come to the number one clue to becoming magnetic to all that you want, whether that's intimacy, love, a baby. And before I share that with you, I need to tell you about Mata Shakti. And Mata Shakti is the mother power of creation, or as I like to think of, the mother womb of creation. So I believe that every desire that we want is being held in the mother womb of creation. And she is gestating everything that you want and that I want, like a universal womb that is holding both the knowing of all our desires. She knows what we want, as well as the next step to get us that one step closer to receiving the big thing. And it's all in there. Every step is already gestating, getting ready for you to be ready to receive the next clue. So just like a baby doesn't simply appear from the stork, it has to gestate for 9 months, 10 months actually, 40 weeks. And your desires, they have to gestate too in the mother womb of creation until you're ready to receive them. But how? How do you receive what you've been gestating in the universal womb? And the answer is by becoming a vibrational match to that energy of creation. Because that's when you become the channel through which this creation flows, literally like a vessel. So the number one clue to becoming this vibrational match is to savor, delight, and relish in everything that is going right for you. So let's recap how this works. You ask for what you want, and that happens all day, every day. Mata Shakti answers. The mother womb of creation, the universal womb, creates it for you. And it's gestating, waiting for us to become a vibrational match to receiving what we have already conceived. And step 3 is to savor all of the goodness of what is going right. And in that savoring process, you plug into Mata Shakti and all the juicy goodness from the universal womb. It flows to you like an endless river. And that's what I'm doing right now, to try to keep this in my mind as I embark on this incredible new journey with this man. I could think of all the reasons why it wouldn't work, or it's not going to work, or etc., etc., etc. That's really easy to go down that path of thinking, of the rational, logical mind. But it's the exact opposite of savoring all the goodness of what is going right. And in that savoring process, you literally open the channels of receiving more and more and more. So if you feel disconnected from your instincts, if all you feel is frustrated and not in control, then you really need to tap into this power that's bigger than you're trying. Because you really are limited in what you can accomplish when you're taking action from this I have to make it happen place. But if you plug into this feminine power of creation, if you know how to harness that energy and wield it, now you're connected to the energy that literally creates life, that creates worlds. Now you're powerful. Otherwise, you're just this lone person that's disconnected and flailing around, trying to take these actions that aren't necessarily yielding the results that you want. And that's why we need to plug into Mata Shakti, the mother womb of creation, through our own feminine power. So, are you ready to shift into a feminine way of creating? Because I would love to show you how to work from your feminine too, so that instead of feeling depleted and frustrated, you would also know how to be generative, to create, attract, receive, and connect from the center of your being, luxuriously, sensually, feminine, powerfully. And you know, if you've been around for a while, that I've been exploring and deepening my relationship with feminine energy for many years. And 6 years ago, I created an entire online program to teach women how to start harnessing the magical gifts of their sensual feminine energy with skill and confidence. And because now I'm deep inside my own magical experience of the power of surrendering to this delicious huntress, enchantress energy, and we're on the precipice of Samhain, the night of Hallows Eve, until October 31st, I want to give you the opportunity to enjoy Sensual Magic, my 6-week online course, for 50% off. And that's what it's called, Sensual Magic. And if you've been feeling a heart tug as I tell you my story, I would love to see you give yourself the gift of your own feminine power. So I'll quickly walk you through what is included over the 6 weeks. So in session 1, I'll guide you to explore the magic of being a woman. In session 2, you'll let go of masculine controlling energy and play with your feminine power. In session 3, you'll take advantage of your sexual surge and rekindle passion and intimacy. In session 4, you'll connect with your partner even when you're feeling vulnerable and emotional. In session 5, I'll show you how to surrender to your body's call for rest and relaxation. And in session 6, you'll receive the insights from a Q&A session with past participants. So all this is guided over 6 weeks at a pace that you go at your own pace. And here's what else you receive when you enroll. 6 audio sessions. They're designed to be listened to weekly. And the first one is free, so you can listen to it right away. Just go to www.yogagoddess.ca/sensual-magic. So the slug is sensual-magic from yogagoddess.ca. You also get a beautifully illustrated yoga and meditation guide for my signature practice, Moon Goddess, which is a huge value. You get the moon cycle charting workshop where I guide you step by step on how to chart your cycle, menstrual cycle with the moon. You receive a step-by-step intention setting guide to heal, shift, or manifest whatever it is that you're trying to create in your life. You also, on every call, will hear from my beautiful friend and guest coach, relationship coach, Shannon Cross from Calgary, Alberta. Along with that, you'll get 15 minutes of Moon Goddess yoga and meditation practice at the end of every week session, plus 5 audio meditations for a sensual goddess flow. And just until midnight on October 31st, you can step into all of this at 50% off. Just use the coupon code sensual50. We'll put all the details below to get the savings. Sensual50. So thank you so much for being with me here tonight under the full moon. It's been a different live cast than usual. I really appreciate you holding space for me to share such vulnerable news. If you have any questions, I'm happy to stay online, and I want to check what you've written to me because I haven't been checking the chat. So if there are any questions that you want to ask me, please stay on and we can talk. I also hope that you'll take advantage of this chance to infuse your body, your life, your relationship, or attract a relationship with sensual magic, because it's all within your reach. I think my story is a testament to anything, absolutely anything is possible, even when it looks like everything is going wrong. You really don't know what's gestating for you in that Mata Shakti, in that mother womb of creation that's holding all of our desires. And I really want you to have access to that feminine power. So I'm just checking. Okay, Sarah from Pennington, British Columbia, how lovely. Elizabeth from Greece. Thank you, Emily. Yes, it was very emotional to go through all of this, and to think about sharing it with my community was took a lot of thought. Because as you can imagine, nobody wants to admit to failure. especially when I've helped so many other women. I really didn't think that I couldn't help myself. So that's one way of looking at it. I shared a different way of looking at it. And thank you for being here with me. Ashley says, you are so beautiful. Thank you for sharing so openly. Lots of love to you during this emotional time. Thank you so much, Ashley. Joanne says, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your story. Thank you, Joanne. Oh, wow. Riverine Faye says, hello from Egypt. Thank you. And Stacy Kolnick. Hi, Zara. Love you. Your beautiful heart and soul. Thank you, Stacy. All right. So just checking to see if there are any questions. Emily says, your story is so relatable. Thank you. Thank you, Emily. And Dina, oh my goodness, this question is exactly what I'm going through too. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank you, Dina. Sinead says, having chills. This is absolutely smack where I am at the moment. I have an appointment booked with the fertility clinic just next week, but I don't really want to be a single mom. I want to find my life partner first, but I'm 47. This is so helpful, Zara. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sinead, that's so beautiful. I really appreciate you sharing. And you know what? It's really hard to be a single woman in her 40s, still holding on to hope, to being a mother. But I always think about this one woman who posted in the Yoga Goddess support circle that her sister had a baby naturally at 49, which is almost unheard of and almost impossible, according to what the medical literature says. But we've all heard stories like that. And so nothing is impossible. But there is something to be said about being able to plug into this mother energy of creation and allow it to do the work for us. So I'm hoping that tonight has helped a lot of you to connect to this idea and maybe take the next step to savoring and delighting and relishing in that energy by connecting to your own sensual magic. All right. Fiona says, wow, this is so magical and awe-inspiring. Thank you, Fiona. Joanne says, wow, I love this story. And Emily says, truly magical. Joanne says, the universe is remarkable, indeed. So I love that you were commenting as I went through the story. It's clear. And Ashley says, the universe has sent you the most beautiful blessing. Thank you for this. It is so inspiring. Beautiful love story. Thank you, Ashley. So I'm just checking to see if there are any questions. Keep going. All right. Oh, Mariana from Greece. So I have to say a shout out to Mariana. Mariana and I did a womb blessing just a year ago, and it was her story that inspired me to take this step. So Mariana, if you're still here, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Mariana was 42 when she left her partner of several years to go out on a journey of fertility on her own. I'm just going to read what she wrote. This is one of the most moving, beautiful, and inspirational stories I have ever heard. I don't know whether you remember our womb blessing session exactly 1 year ago and the story I shared with you. You probably do. I now realize why we both experienced such a strong sense of connection. Oh my God. The story I was sharing back then was your story to be. I'm in tears, forever grateful to you for the love and wisdom you so gracefully offered me during our time together. Forever grateful to life's deeper justice for making sure that you receive yourself the gifts that you are so willingly offering us. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you so much, because you inspired me to have the courage to walk away from a very deep, long relationship with a man that I loved. So thank you so much for that. This is why I do this work. And it means the world to me to have people like you in my world. So thank you. All right. So if anyone has any questions, I'm still here. Of course, I forgot to bring Kleenex for myself. Riverine Faye says, I believe I just found the right man for me. Tonight we kissed for the first time. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Oh, thank you, Riverine. So there's a lot of beautiful comments. I will continue to read them. And Pratima has a question. Can you please talk a little bit more about letting go of control and still having the desire for what you want? Every time I try to surrender or give up control, I feel like I'm giving up on my desire. Okay, so this is a really important question. So I want to just take a moment with that, because there's always this sense that in order to surrender control, that there's a disconnect from the desire, but it's actually the opposite. Because if you really surrender, you give it up to the universe and you stop holding on with that tight grip, that feeling that you're out there on your own and you have to do it on your own. Because that's not surrendering, that's you fighting and wrestling it to the ground, as Abraham says, and killing it. So instead of fighting and struggling with it, you literally give it up to the universe. And you continue to hold in your heart what is real and true and dear to you. And you put your trust and faith into that mother energy of creation, knowing that what you want is already there for you. It's already created for you. You just have to line up to receiving it. And that's hard. It's a hard thing to wrap our minds around, but it's really what vibrational energy means. You have to be a match in order to let it in. And we can do that little by little, or we can do it in a fast track way through meditation, through yoga, through spirituality, womb blessings. You know, I offer so many different ways. Sensual magic is another avenue into becoming a vibrational match and learning how to use the energy of sensuality to delight and savor and relish in all of that juicy yumminess. Because the more you live in that place of juiciness, the more you become one with that river of abundance, because it's all there. We just need to be resonating with that river of abundance. So hopefully that was helpful. All right. All right. So thank you all. If you have any further questions, you can write them on the live cast below. We will be sending you, if you're on the mailing list, the code, the discount code, and the cart will be open, as I said, until midnight on Halloween, on Samhain. I hope that many of you will take advantage of this special offer. It doesn't come along very, very much. So taking 50% off makes it really an easy yes to say yes to a gift to you from me, and opening up to receive all the juicy goodness that the universal womb has for you. So I'm sending you all lots and lots of love. Thank you all for being here this evening, for joining me, for being in our circle. As I said, it's an unusual live cast this month. I hope some of you were partaking in Miranda Gray's womb blessing today. The next transmission starts in 8 minutes. So although I'm not guiding it, I hope you can still do it on your end if you signed up in advance. The next one we're going to do is in December. It's the final one of the year. And I'm going to rush off now to participate in transmitting with Miranda. So sending you all lots and lots of full moon love. Happy Huntress moon. And I hope to see you on the other side of sensual magic. For those of you who want to savor and delight and relish in your sensual huntress goddess energy. Bye for now.